enthusiastically. So the question that we have today is for projectile motion problems, what allows us to relate the x and y components? And the way that we relate the x and y components in physics all the time is through one letter and one letter alone. It is a consonant. Anybody know what it is? No. No. It's often used.
C. A.
It is T. Absolutely. Time. That is how we relate those two components.
Oh, I remember that physics.
Yep.
You know what? Mr. Hathaway, that sounds like a really corny joke setup.
It
Actually, no,
does.
the punchline
Speaking of
joke.
which, you have any jokes for us today?
No, I don't. I don't want you guys to get sick of them. So
I promise you, we won't.
I'll have at least one or two for you tomorrow. All right. So yeah, make sure that you remember that. Usually, what ends up happening is you're supposed to solve for some horizontal distance, and in order to get that, you need how long the object's been in the air, and you can figure that out using vertical information, and then transfer that to your horizontal time, x equals vt. So today we're going to talk some more about two-dimensional motion, and we'll start with this. And as you begin writing that down, I'm going to come and grab your homework. Thank you, sir.
It's two-dimensional motion. Is that the title?
So, do we think you're watching? No.
Alright, Ender.
I had annoying orange on my phone for a while.
Ender, tell us if you watch these. Where's Ender?
Soccer.
Hi, Ender.
It's gonna be us on Friday. We're gonna miss Friday.
Oh, yeah, we're
gonna
back.
have to Friday.
Do we for sure?
Yes,
Oh,
for sure.
sure.
Us needed 3:30.
Yeah.
What are we doing tomorrow?
Tomorrow you got work time.
At least we're not learning.
All right.
Is it A over
That's
H?
right.
Yeah, this is a dividing line. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Tangent opposite over adjacent. Yep.
Kasotoa.
I
what he
didn't.
has
I was
now.
taking it far. What you did was taking it too far.
Sokatoa.
What is it? It's like sec. What?
He's talking about secant or
The inverses.
Right. Yeah, make sure you know SOHCAHTOA. If you don't know SOHCAHTOA, you need to go buy a pizza and determine the angles and figure out how to relate them to sine and cosine. I was wondering where that sentence was going to go.
Yeah.
You gotta
That's
buy
not right.
It
It's
just
all
kept going. I'm like, oh.
You gotta buy a pizza and then cry.
Mr. Hathaway, you just want someone to buy you a pizza.
I'm not opposed.
Sometimes I just start talking and
We'll start
hope
a
I find it
fundraiser.
along the way.
We'll start GoFundMe.
Sometimes it works.
We need to raise $6
sometimes
to give this
not.
half a snowy.
My wife and I used to go to Pizza Hut all the time, but now we're kind of switching to Domino's because it tastes so much better.
Domino's is amazing.
But I think Rocky Rococo's is probably beats Domino's in my mind.
Yeah.
Deep
Maybe.
dish.
Yeah, I like the deep dish stuff.
Aw. He was so disappointed.
I guess we should keep going.
Yeah.
I should do a whole piece of notes in Eeyore voice.
Yes, please. I think it'd be great.
It'd be amazing. It'd be
There's
like
just 1 week where you choose different characters. every
Right.
day.
Hey
Yes.
guys, have you guys taken your
Let's
like,
do it. I am
psycho-
literally too.
It's like blue psycho mental illness test. I got I think I got Tigger, which is ADHD.
Well, Tigger is a good influence. So I'd say that's a pretty positive result there.
He got really disappointed, so then he was Eeyore, and then we said we should
Could you
do
please go back?
voices. And then
Oh,
we
sure.
For like 3 seconds.
Sometimes I'm impressed at being able to remember how we got.
Okay. So the only reason you don't have to write this down. This is all in your regular physics note sheet if you have it yet. If you don't, let me know and I can get you one. Or you can always get another physics t-shirt. I should show you guys what they're looking like this year. But you've got your displacement equations, velocity and acceleration. This is really just 4 equations up here because these are both the same thing. The main thing I want you to see is that you can use this in both the x and the y direction, vertically or horizontally. If you've got acceleration in either of those directions, that's when you're going to use these. When I was in high school, or rather, when I was student teaching at a high school, the physics teacher made all the kids write out the little X's for everything, whether it was vertical or horizontal, every single time. For me, I just think if you got an X here, you're horizontal. If you got a Y here, you're vertical. But if it helps you to have those letters written out, you're not going to be marked off or anything like that. So whatever helps you with that. And your 2 equations for velocity, V equals VO plus AT, and of course the one that everybody always forgets about, the poor little time-independent velocity equation. Don't forget about that guy. And your acceleration. If you're in free fall, vertically, you've got an acceleration of negative 9.8. Otherwise, you can always solve for acceleration using calculus, or you can estimate it by change in velocity over change in time. Questions on this? Okay. I've got a very special set of equations for you right now. All right? These are known as symmetric parabolic trajectory equations. And you're going to have to write these down. And actually, they're quite helpful.
Should I put this on my equation sheet or is that?
No. These only work under very specific conditions. But if you have these conditions, this is your map to success.
Oh, I'm Alan, but I'm the fashionista who has like 1 line.
Hey, that's more lines than I have. Nope, that's why I don't have any lines.
Or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that was the one.
Really? Wow. I haven't even
It was
looked at that
about
scene.
the line. Actually complimenting my shoes. They look like Colgate. Colgate. See.
Are we copying that white board on the
Yep.
Yeah.
Wait, why do we have some line subscripts?
Why do I?
Just so that you can tell that it's a vertical thing that you're looking at.
Oh, that's right.
So that A, if you're on Earth, will be negative 9.8.
When you're not in there.
Okay.
Then it's different.
But it's always constant.
Yes. I lost my Eeyore voice. I'm smiling again. Should I be Mickey Mouse now?
I'm taking my food pathology test. Let's see who I get when I'm not feeling depressed.
Oh boy!
Whoa.
I love it.
Yeah. You know, sometimes you'll turn and be like, hey, or hey guys, and then you go, here you are. Like, you'll do your, like, your deeper voice.
Right.
Then you see your Mickey Mouse voice.
You should do them separate, yeah. Oh boy. How about that?
Or just, like, go back and
Mickey Mouse hits puberty. That's what that's called.
Oh my goodness. And there are no parents.
Yeah. Yeah, we gotta say hi to Hinder.
If he doesn't bring the sauce, we know he didn't watch it.
Okay.
Okay, but you have to do it like 2 days because it took me like a solid like 2 days to get it correct on schedule.
You know, last year he's in physics for a while. He sat next to Hitty, and it's like, why are you sitting next to Hitty? His name is literally Hit Hinder.
Very funny.
That's true, right?
Okay, guys, my group pathology
I
results
just
came
got that.
87% piglet, which is anxiety, 87% tigger, which is ADHD,
Oh my
80%, no, it's like out of 100%. 80% poo, which is ADD, 80% Christopher Robin, which is schizophrenia, 60% Eeyore, which is depression, oh wait, 63% Brew, which is autism, and 53% Brown, which is OCD.
He's adding up to more than 100.
No, all of them are out of
How
100.
much
Oh.
of each person?
Oh, I see. Okay. So,
If there's types out there, it's much stronger.
We're so distracted.
So-
I'm so confused.
let me just take this one more step, and then we'll hit the physics. So one of the
I thought he was saying, let me just get back to physics now.
no. One of my my son's favorite things to play with is a little rattle, and it's a Winnie the Pooh rattle. So a lot of times we gotta say, John, you gotta stop throwing poo all over the place there. Stop playing with your poo. Put it down for a little bit.
That would be me as a parent.
Sometimes he throws it against the wall. Anyway, that's right. So, symmetric parabolic trajectory only works if you have an object that comes back to the exact same place that it was launched from. The classic example would be like golf. You hit the ball, it starts from a certain height, it travels, and then it comes back to that same height when it hits the ground. So that's the only time you're able to use these equations here. So make sure that you know that. So basically,
You think of them
or kicking equations for football. Yeah. So yeah, that's what these are used for. There are 1 or 2 problems on the homework that you do need to know these for. So make sure you have them available.
memorized or available?
No, just available. You don't got to memorize them. Something else that we need to just talk about briefly is circular motion. That was something we did for a little bit at the end of the year last year.
I forgot everything that happened during like the virtual days in every class.
So I'm basically on the same playing field.
All I remember about math is Gauss per
You can write that down.
I do it, I just remember it annoying me. Alright.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Palmer.
I was like, that only does that because you have one of those still? Not really, because you know yours. No, I'm questioning if I don't know.
Okay, guys, but real quick, what lipstick color would go good on you?
Why?
Wait, look at me.
Pretty pinkish.
I think
Don't
you could
go
rock
for
red.
No.
Are you sure? I think you could.
Red isn't very good. No, it needs to be more pinky.
What about purple?
Wait, what about like
Purple?
a deeper, like red, like more
Is the
warm
one-
color?
is
or
it-
some purple?
Is that
I feel like
one
that would
supposed
work.
to have an S next to D?
Maybe.
Or
I
not?
never am good at figuring out lipsticks.
No.
I never wear lipstick.
Because it's just 1 G, 2 Gs, 3 Gs.
Oh.
Yep.
What? Did you say my name?
Why is G like 2 GS? What's that?
Gs. So this is like 1 G, 2 G's, 3 G's.
Talking about the.
This is like if you're experiencing a force because you're moving in a circle, maybe you feel a lot heavier than you normally would. If you feel twice your weight, you would be experiencing 2 G's.
Oh, I thought you were talking about that 2 G's.
Oh, no. I think that would be capital G.
No.
No?
It can't be lower.
So all this is about is when you're traveling in a circle and they say you're experiencing a certain number of G's, those G's correspond to a certain acceleration. And it's just, if it's 2 G's, it's twice 9.8. If it's 3 G's, it's 3 times 9.8. And if you are undergoing those forces while you're traveling in a circle, they will not be negative. Questions on that? Okay, I got another gift for you. A little bit of review here.
Please back up.
Yeah, if you're doing this at home, you might want to pause it every so often.
Oh, wait.
Alright.
You don't have the PDF.
I think I have to check. I think I do.
Is it in, like, the miscellaneous folder?
I don't remember. It's still good to write these down, even if they would happen to be on Schoology. You really got to make sure that you're aware of these and hopefully remember a little bit about them from last year.
Not really.
Oh, is this like Greek symbols?
What symbols?
Greek, or is this just
I'm sorry. What symbols?
Greek symbols?
Oh, Greek. No.
Because that
Well,
value looks like a.
yeah. This is a Greek symbol, and that's it. Yeah, and of course pi. Yep. Most of the stuff you do in this chapter is not circular related. You just want to make sure you're prepared for the couple that come along that do deal with that kind of motion.
What's the first one after? Like V over R, semi-solid.
Yeah.
Parenthesis R E V.
Yeah, so I'll go through this in more depth once everybody has it written down, but what this means is your angular velocity is equal to regular velocity divided by r.
Is that revolution?
Yeah, and so the other way to calculate angular velocity is to take a number in revolutions per second. Maybe it says you're traveling at 10 revolutions per second. Multiply that by 2 pi, and that gives you the angular velocity.
Wait, did you do this in Mr. Macia's class, or is this separate? I remember some of this, and cheating on the test.
Only the good things.
Mr. Mace. Mr. Mage is gonna watch this in 2025 and go ahead and put my grade down as a 0 for the test.
Probably him walking by.
It's all funny games until Mr. Halfway flips it. Makes a meme off it.
Something like that.
You know, make a meme
You know
out
what?
of it.
I watched some of these and you can't hear the background that much.
You really
You
can't.
could when I watched it. Well, I just heard parts of hanging up
Yeah,
there.
you'll just have to mic me over here.
Well, I got surround sound in my basement, so I'll probably just hear you from the back speakers then. So, just kind of going through this briefly. This is something that we did last year. There's a relationship between regular straight line velocity and angular velocity. All you do, if you're looking for regular velocity, is you go radius times angular velocity, if that's the information that you're given. If you're given something in revolutions per second, multiply it by 2 pi r, and that will also give you your regular velocity. You can see up here the way that you go the opposite in order to get angular velocity. Tangential acceleration is the acceleration that you know and love. A straight line. You can either solve for it using calculus, change in velocity over change in time, or of course if you're in free fall, it's negative 9.8 meters per second squared. Centripetal acceleration is v squared over r. We dealt with that. We moved things in circles. Units are meters per second squared. Radial acceleration is the exact same thing, only it's negative. You deal with that, I think, once in the homework somewhere. And period is 2 pi r divided by velocity. And that's in seconds, of course. So that's what's going on with this stuff. So make sure that you have this kind of at the ready for when you start dealing with circular motion things in this chapter. Again, that's not too much. That's not the main idea of this whole thing, but
We try like 37 with it.
not really new.
37 review.
Yeah, that's better. All right. So we're making pretty good time. We got 15 minutes to do the last problem. And here we go. This is the sort of thing that this chapter is about. This is chapter 3, and this is motion in 2 dimensions. So let's do a problem where you've got 2-dimensional motion.
It's kind of like a piecewise function.
Does it?
So because like you have that slope going up for a little bit, and then it like goes to a quadratic.
So you got this guy over here.
He's jumping again.
He's
That's a long joke.
he's excited because he's got an arm that's the entire length of his body.
Okay.
And an enormous head. So he throws something at 20 meters per second.
I think he throws a lot.
He throws
Sure.
Kardashian off.
I have decided.
They're both about the same intelligence. So
Wow.
Kim Kardashian watching this touching
a single tear goes down.
She gets on her phone and she's like,
If she's watching this
Destroy him.
video, I
Where
commend
has she
her.
gone in life?
I commend her because she's also like developed a career. Why does she need to learn AP physics?
Fair
Isn't she
enough.
like doing law now or
I
something?
don't know. I don't follow her.
She won't be able to cry. She's got too much makeup. So the first thing that I'd like you guys to solve for in this,
You said she got
first thing you want to solve for in this is the x and y components of that velocity. This is oftentimes the very first step you will need to do to solve for anything regarding this kind of a 2-dimensional problem. So find the velocity in the x direction and the velocity in the y direction.
oh, you want to send me this? Hold on. I'm kidding, you guys don't have to say how this is more information.
You should have a different national anthem to start every class. That'd be interesting.
Wait, I swear, if one of you took my pencil pouch and just didn't
What's
give
that?
it back to me,
Okay.
Somebody pick a country.
Russia.
We'll do Russia's after that.
We do the Soviet Union, and then we'll do Russia.
That's unoriginal and unfunny. Now, Russia's maybe the Where is it? Okay, did one of you just go and take my pencil pouch and help me?
There's some extra pencils in the back if you need them.
No, I had my calculator.
Oh, okay.
I brought my calculator today.
Very good. It's a good day for it. Make sure you're in degree mode.
Oh,
Or just use the little degree symbol.
Right.
no, it's too much work.
And just write the equation down.
No, you should solve for it because you're going to need those numbers.
I don't have to.
Okay. There's spare calculators in the back if you want them.
Hey. Oh.
Why does one have to be so perfect in one?
Ooh, someone's dissing 17.3.
I'm just doing everything today, so
Yeah, 17.3 is fake.
17.3 to 1 can deal with it.
So
Nice, okay. No, I don't feel like it today.
you use SOHCAHTOA to do this. You've got 20 meters per second here, so that's your hypotenuse. You would need to use a sine function to solve for the opposite side, which is the vertical. You'd need cosine to solve for the adjacent side.
Very good.
So yeah. Any questions on how to get those two numbers? Okay. Next thing. Tell me how fast the Kardashian is going when she reaches the ground. What is her vertical velocity at that point?
Very aggressive.
So then we have to find the peak height and then the time and then acceleration.
Or,
Or you can just plug it in all into the long wall equation.
yeah, there's more than one way to do it. Absolutely.
I can set it up, but I can't do
Sorry, velocity in the y direction.
Yeah, so like this is the original velocity in the y direction going up. I want you to tell me what the final velocity in the y direction is.
So then would this be the long way?
You need some time.
Oh, I was in the wrong one.
The half and the set. No, the cap and the set. Thank you, Sean.
Nice.
I hope you have fun.
What time are you guys heading out for that?
The bus takes off at 3:30.
Okay.
The game is almost 2 hours.
You're the last station, like the normal ones.
That's a ways away there.
There's other stations.
I know why they got to compete. Talk to
Yeah. No, you're the
Right.
silly team. You probably got home to me too.
Yeah, it could be.
Are you ready for Halloween dinner? And you dress picked up?
Nah.
That's your. No, you should just pull up there and love the cheerleading performance from the best episode.
You know, I wasn't there last night, but I saw pictures and I was so
It was amazing.
There's all the seniors and cheerleader uniforms.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw
What's
pictures.
happening?
What?
Don't see the shirt.
What are you guys talking about?
The seniors last night were in
You got no idea what
For
happened
the
yesterday?
school song
What at the?
competition.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I was there for coronation. I didn't see the school song part.
This was
Yeah,
not my
that's,
idea.
There you go.
This wasn't. It's not pleasant.
Now that should go on our website.
Right?
I saw that.
No, we can't. We're a Christian school.
why can't
Look, it's over here.
Because it's in the rules.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure it is. I'm pretty sure people would.
All right.
This is the point.
How many people got negative 31.3 meters per second?
That's no.
I just didn't do it.
How many people do it equation?
The best equation to use for this guy,
It's the y.
It's a long way.
Oh.
Oh, we squared.
because we aren't given any information about time,
Oh, right.
so it's probably best we hop onto this equation. Because you know everything in there, except your final velocity. Original velocity in the y direction is 10, acceleration is negative 9.8. We know the total height difference is going to be negative 45 because we're going from up to down. And when you do all that math, you'll end up with 31.3. And because it's all under a square root, the result can be positive or negative. And because it's going down, it's going to be negative. Using that information, solve for time. How long is this thing in the air? How long is she in the air?
I said it's a water balance.
Okay.
It's a hydro class. No, it's Abby Aikman specifically hydro.
I thought you were saying we're going to time.
I would never throw Abby Aikman.
I think I did a lot of things.
No, it's a physics book. It's an angry physics student writing a physics book. They're so angry.
I might have to be
Yes.
I don't know.
I don't have a calculator, so it's about my
I think I saw like all of them.
I think it's 1 point something interesting. I don't know.
It's the velocity in the y
Just
direction.
until the heat.
Because this is a vertical equation. So you got to use 10.
Okay,
I don't know.
Otherwise, everything else
that
is
sounds.
Very good now.
Negative e plus
You've got 60 seconds to finish this one.
One.
Should just be a one equation thing.
Wait, hold on. I think I
I
got the right
could be wrong,
equation.
so don't trust me.
No, didn't know if I wrote it down like 100% right.
Oh, that's why.
Did you get this?
Also,
Okay.
we're doing great.
Guys, after summer's over and school starts, is at the start of Halloween or the start of Christmas? Think about that.
That's the person that I had.
Halloween season starts September to October, then Christmas is after that.
No, but I mean, having just nothing to list like that. If you're sad that summer's over and school's starting, don't be. Because when summer ends and school starts, it's only the beginning of Christmas.
Did you just hit your head?
What? No.
Did you just, oh, so there's like a noise. Did you hit your head on the thing
I
here?
think that, like,
Oh, okay.
That's Kim Kardashian.
this.
Really?
Yeah, you'd see more weird if I hit him this all.
How many people got 4.21 seconds?
Yeah. I'm so proud of myself. I did things.
So the equation that I would probably use would be this guy here.
For what?
Because you know everything except for the time. And yeah.
You don't want to deal with square root.
Wait, I used that. How did I get this wrong?
So this should be negative 9.8. Original velocity should be 10 because we're going vertically. Did you put 20 in for that?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I did.
So another thing that you could solve for this might be the actual resultant velocity as it hits the ground. And that's just another triangle. Because we know the velocity in the x direction is 17.3. We know that the final velocity in the y direction is 31.3. So then you could actually use that in order to solve for how fast overall this object is going as it hits the ground, just by using triangles and stuff. You'd have, basically you could go, get rid of this side. Your 31.3 would be over here. And you just solve for the hypotenuse using Pythagorean theorem. And this would be your overall total velocity that the object has as it's hitting the ground, because you're moving in 2 dimensions. If you do that, you should get 35.8. This is how, yeah, this is the overall two-dimensional velocity. Because we know in the x direction, which doesn't change, we're at 17.6. And in the y direction, as it hits the ground, we've got 31.3. So overall, you've got a two-dimensional motion that you can solve for just using the Pythagorean theorem. And, oh good, I got a full minute and a half. So then the distance as it hits the ground would be x equals vt. Tell me what you get for that.
I got 2 as well.
What'd you get?
I don't know. He said 2, so I said I got 2.
Okay, nope. 7. What'd you say?
73?
73, yep.
Wait, what? How? What?
72.8. Yeah, if you're rounding to 3 digits, 72.8. And the reason for that is because, once again, when you're using these equations, if you're not going to put the little letters in there, the x's and the y's, you do have to be very careful. This is an x equation, so this has to be a horizontal velocity here, which is 17.3. And then we calculated the total time earlier, 4.21. Do a little bit of multiplication, and you've got your total distance there. And again, there's more than one way to get to these solutions. You could have solved for this.
A different one for every single question.
Right, right. You could use the long y equation probably to end up here. You'd end up getting your time in the process, so then you wouldn't have to do that part. But yeah, just use those equations. Think of it as your physics toolbox. And if one thing doesn't work, just try a different one.
Good afternoon, everybody. Congratulations as we come to the close of another heroic day of school here in Spirit Week.